The course name is Sri Prema Vivarta. The name is Divine Transformation Spiritual Love. And I think I made it very clear to explain to you what the word Prema Vivarta means. Vivarta, it's really a transformation. Sometimes it's kind of what you see, it's not reality. Basically, what we are going to hear about, the author is Sri Jagadananda Das. Jagadananda Prabhu is, and I think I gave you a brief biography also, but just to hit the highlights. He's a very, very intimate associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, he was a classmate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And because of his intimacy, informality, and yet as a devotee of the Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had great, tremendous love. And out of love, many times, even from childhood, he used to quarrel with the Lord a lot because of the great protection, overprotective of the Lord, you know. And when later Lord took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas order, and he was really practicing very, very tough vows, you know, and that was really kind of troubling Jagadananda Prabhu. And out of his love, he would constantly protest and many times really quarrel also, you know. So here, we should not get a direct meaning of that, his anger. We should not conclude that he was offensive to the Lord. No, not really. It is really, and that is called Prema Vivarta. Out of his great love, that was because of that. Just like Yashoda Maya used to discipline baby Krishna all the time, but it was motherly affection, you know. So that is what we need to understand. So that is what called Prema Vivarta. That which is which we see by our eyes is not far beyond the truth, you know. And because of love, that anger is not really there. Anger is there, but not in real sense. Okay, so that we must understand. In this course, really, I intended to give in preparation for Sri Jaiva Dharma course that we are going to start. Okay, and Sri Jaiva Dharma course, when I was preparing for that, I found out there was so much emphasis on this Prema Vivarta by the central character, Premadas Babaji. No? Now, that I kind of little bit kind of wondered, how is it so? He kept saying that he daily chants Prema Vivarta instead of not Chaitanya Charitamrita, not Srimad Bhagavatam, and also. So I was wondering what was so special. And that's why when I started looking at this Prema Vivarta book by Sri Jagadananda, then I realized why it is so, you know. Because this whole book, the author really dedicates to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in great devotional service, okay? And then he takes great pain to show there is no difference between Krishna, Lord Shri Krishna, and Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are one and the same. Only Krishna came himself as his devotee, and his greatest devotee is none other than Srimati Radharani. So he came in the mood of Srimati Radharani and took her complexion, golden complexion, you know. So here, that's what you see in this slide. So when I realized that I should conduct this Prema Vivarta course in preparation of Sri Jaiva Dharma, that is, there was very little time in between. So all I could do to do this course, Prema Vivarta, in just 16 lessons, okay? But then I realized, as I walk you through, because this today is a preview, of the entire. So there are, as you'll see in this, there are 20 chapters, and we'll do in 16 lessons. In a moment, we'll see in the next slide. So there's a massive amount of information, so many different subject matters that the author is focusing on that, and all this time together to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, okay? And especially since it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his central mission why he descended for the benefit of all the devotees to liberate them from material existence and have them develop a love of Krishna. He introduced especially for this age of Kali, this chanting of Mahamantra. So it's no wonder the bulk of this Prema Vivarta book, he goes in a great length to discuss this Mahamantra. Over clearly about 200 verses he devotes on that. Literally about almost half of the book. Those are the kind of, first of all, it's unique way of describing. It's very, very unique style he has. So then I realized this 20 chapters, and to do it in 16 lessons is really far outcry. Actually, I should have done twice as many lessons, but unfortunately, we have no choice because I want to be able to do this thing course before we start Sri Jaiva Dharma, and that was the reason why it is only 16 lessons. Okay, so please realize that. So again, I must pre-warn you, a massive amount of information, and the slides are indeed very complex, and I tried to make it as simple as possible. Nonetheless, to accommodate the massive information that the author gives in his book, I had to do this mind mapping, so it is quite complex, and that is the reason I urge all of you, in order to help me to help you understand. And the entire book is about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, and yes, Chaitanya Charitamrita is also about that, but this is from a special perspective because this author was a contemporary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As I told you already, he was his classmate, and he stayed with Mahaprabhu all the way when Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri after he took up the sannyas order of life, So he was there also. So he closely associated with great confidential associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar Goswami, Raya Ramananda Roy, and all these things. So this is the unique feature of this book. I thought I would let you know about that. So 16 lessons is really afraid it's not going to do the justice. So a lot of information is packed in. So unless and until you familiarize with each weekly PowerPoint that I share with you, please glance through, be familiarized. So when we discuss in the class, it will be possible for you to understand, and it will be possible for me to explain to you, although I will try my best. And I could have summarized and given you and paraphrase you all this thing in my own words, but then I would be doing justice to the author, his unique style. So I decided, instead of doing, giving a thematic approach that I normally do, here also thematic approach is there, but every verse will go through that verse by verse. Okay, so I thought it was fair to really warn you. It's very, very essential that you familiarize with the slides. Okay, so with that, I'll walk you through that. Okay. So, so first lesson that we did it last week, that was just an inauguration. But today we will do the preview right from beginning. Okay. So lesson 1 was just the inauguration, and today's lesson 2 is I'm going to walk you through to the entire book, all 20 chapters, then how I intend to do it in 16 chapters. Okay. So it will run through the course since last week, so April 7, today is April 14, to all the way July 21st. This overlaps Sri Jaiva Dharma. Jaiva Dharma also we are going to start right around that time. Okay. And then of course, give you the class schedule also. So there are 2 books I'm doing, but let me tell you, none of these 2 books has any commentary. Okay. None of these 2 books, any commentary. Both are translations, but they are done with 2 different personalities. So there's a slight difference in the translation, but the one on the right side that you see, that's the one has all these verses. So is the left one too also, you know. But these verses are numbered, which are not numbered in the one on the left side. Okay. So that's what I'm following the one on the right side. But the one on the left side that you see, that is the most recent one. It just came out just last month only, you know. So that's the reason I included. But other than that, they are essentially the translation. Can you turn off your microphone, please? I assume that it's Rami Mataji. Hari Bol. So this is the, I'll walk you through, and you see that there are 20 chapters, and I abbreviated with letter C. So C1 through C20, okay? And the 16 lessons I will do this 16, 20 chapters are indicated by letter L. So L1 and L1 was just the inauguration that we did last week. Today is the previous, that is L2. And then 3 through 16 is really the book is all about, okay? So as you can see in lesson 3, so lesson 3 is the invocation and inauguration. That chapter 1, the author himself has the invocation verse that will go through that, and that is dedicated to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, okay? And to invoke the auspiciousness before he starts writing, okay? And then chapter 2 that we will do in lesson 4, that is the composition of his book. He tells us how he began to write this book and how different personalities helped him, and he took account of that, beginning with Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself also was there. He took his guidance on that. And he tells us how we would structure his book. Okay, so that's also quite important. And then he gets into the subject matter. So that we will do in lesson 5. So lesson 5, we will do chapter 3 to chapter 7. So 5 chapters. Okay. Chapter 3, he offers a series of his first obeisances, beginning with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, Krishna, and then he makes clear to us that there is no difference between Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so he offers obeisances, a series of obeisances, and he shows the supremacy, the greatest, that is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, non-different from Sri Krishna. But he has special affection for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he personally saw that, interacted with him in a great intimate manner, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is Krishna himself, became his own devotee, okay, in the mode of Srimati Radharani. So that's what all this thing ties up very closely, okay. And then he tells us about the service in the transformation of this ecstatic love. So it's a Madhurya Bhav also, we get into that. Prema Bhakti, that is what we are going to talk about. Okay? And that ought to be the chapter 6, the entire chapter it devotes to emphasize the ultimate goal of every one of us should be to develop, cultivate this Prema Bhakti toward Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because only through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu we get Krishna, because we learned already, right? In several other courses that we did, Shri Radha Tattva, Ujjwal Nilam, everywhere, that Krishna himself also says that only through Srimati Radharani I can be attained, okay? And Radharani is the greatest devotee of Shri Krishna. So here, Krishna himself came in the Radharani's mood to understand what makes her to love him so deeply, to understand her love. That's why he came there, So it's no wonder why he considered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the supreme, the ultimate, really, the goal ought to be for us. Because without getting the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we cannot get Krishna. Okay, then, so in the science of Krishna, he begins, he talks about that, how Krishna in the beginning is together with Radharani, both non-different from each other, exactly same individual, both Krishna and Radha combined together. But then when he developed the desire to enjoy, then he divides himself into two. From left side, Krishna comes as, excuse me, so he, in the left side of his body, Srimati Radharani manifests, and the right side he himself comes out, So one separated to two, and in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, both again two combined together in one. So that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's what he makes us understand that. Okay, then in lesson 6, we will do 3 chapters, chapter 8, 9, and 10. Now, because here the author is helping us how to develop, how to cultivate this Prema Bhakti. So he tells us all the handicaps, all the obstacles that will surely come on our way and how to get around. The greatest danger is this duplicity, sincerity to worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how to give up this cheating propensity, deceitful nature that we all have naturally within us. Hare Krishna. That's what I was afraid of. Okay, let me continue. So to to get rid of this deceitful nature, he tells us how to avoid that, how to become sincere for us to focus on that. and then what we should renounce, what is proper renunciation, and what. So there are two kinds of renunciation: one that is proper, another which is not proper, that is false. So Sanskrit word, that which is not proper or that which is false, is called Falgu Vairagya, and that which is appropriate, right kind, which is proper, that's called Yukta Vairagya. And we will go through that, but just to give you some idea, that again, as unlike Mayavadis, the Gyanis, they strictly avoid anything that is material, because they know that in order to become transcendental, we have to give up anything that is material, right? But that's not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that. Even that which is material, but if that can be potentially utilized in the service of Shri Krishna, then that is proper vairagya, you know. So outrightly, you don't reject anything just because it's material. That is called Yukta Vairagya. Okay? Yukta means to connect with Krishna. And then the other impediments, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, so and the author is contemporary. So at that time, this varnas, these brahmanas, they were dominating. You know, although this Chaturvarnya system, varnashram system, was created for the human society by none other than Krishna himself, and he says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyam Maya system, Guna Karma Vibhaga. It's based on the qualities and the activities that we have. That is how these four varnas are created, and then four ashramas. You know, four varnas are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And the four ashrams, the Brahmacharya ashram, Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, and finally Sannyasa. You know, so here the author tells us, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, that for a devotee, varnashram is not the primary thing. In fact, it's only the non-devotees they stick very closely. When you are in a transcendental platform, we are beyond, we transcend this false interpretation of these varnas, you know, that we will learn. The caste system, very rigid caste system they had at that time particularly, you know. Now it is less, but even that time also. So that is a really aberration of the system that originally Krishna wanted to introduce, you know. Okay, the lesson 7, that is chapter 11, 12, and 13. There is the, now, because this whole book is about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended in Navadvipa, in Bengal, today's Bengal, you know. So there are 9 islands are there. So he illuminates with the knowledge of this Navadvipa, and it is non-different from Vrindavan. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, okay? So same way Navadvipa is also Vrindavan, and Vrindavan is an exact replica of the spiritual Golok Vrindavan Dham, the spiritual world. So Navadvipa is also like that, just like A is equal to B is equal to C, so it automatically follows that A must be also equal to C. So Navadvipa is not different from Vrindavan. Vrindavan is not different from Golok Vrindavan Dham. So Navadvipa is also not different from Golok Vrindavan Dham. It's plain logic, you know. So that's why he devotes the entire chapter to enlighten us on that. So he illuminates what exactly this Navadvipa is there, you know, and the glories of the residents, just like Brajabasis and Vrindavan, right? Brajbasi and Braja. The same way there is a glorification of Navadvipa, and then there's a glorification of the inhabitants of Navadvipa. So he glorifies all the Vaishnavas right there too. And then chapter 13, because of all these things and his great intimacy and great love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that pours out in literally every verse, he pours out that great love and affection he had for this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he had developed this intense eagerness, to serve and to really behold Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That we'll see one entire chapter. Then moving on to the left side, from the bottom on upward, because it's going through the clockwise. So lesson 8, there are two chapters, chapter 14 and 15. So he describes the, excuse me, pardon me for that, please. So in the morning pastimes, detail how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spends morning, and then we will see how he goes to a particular village in Navadvipa, and he meets a coward boy, a man, coward, his name is Bhima, and who really urges the Lord to come and visit his home. And his mother is there, a great devotee of Krishna. Okay, so there we will see a story, a nice story about that, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu liberates a demigod, a child demigod, who was by curse of Durvasa Muni, he ended up as a crocodile residing in that particular lake, and the cowards told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that our cows do not drink milk and do not drink water from this lake because of this ferocious crocodile, So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chants Hare Krishna, and as soon as the crocodile heard Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reciting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he transformed himself into his original form, that was a child demigod, and then we hear the story from his own mouth that how he was cursed because he offended Durvasa Muni. And that's why he ended up here for the full entire 4 yugas, So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's chanting the Hare Krishna mantra liberates him from that, and that is a lesson for all of us also. Moving onwards, then lesson 9, that is again the main topic of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's this particular book, is to developing love of God. So first, developing love of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is the central thing, central elements of the entire book, and this chapter particularly focuses how to cultivate the love of Krishna. Okay, and then he goes at great length, believe me, great length. He enlightens us how each of us, different kinds of devotees, of course. Then he explained to us broadly there are 3 levels of devotees are there. Kanishta Adhikari means they are the neophytes, the intermediates, Madhyama Adhikari, and then finally the Uttama Adhikari, the experts and their characteristics. So each of these 3 different kinds of devotees, and all he describes us how there are different codes of conduct for this different kinds of devotees. So that we'll do it in lesson 10. In lesson 11, then we'll also, because as a Vaishnava, we should strictly follow the vows of observing Ekadasi. So he does not forget that. He devotes the entire chapter on the topics of Ekadasi. And then, as I told you, literally almost half of the book, he talks about this Maha Mantra, over 200 verses, So there is a collection of the mysteries surrounding around the holy name, and I tell you that chapter, chapter 19. Even though we all know when we talk on Mahamantra, there are 10 offenses that we must be extremely careful. So here he goes through that the 10 offenses, but even much greater length than what appears that. Okay, so we'll see that. In the final chapter, chapter 20, the glories of the holy name, again it goes through that. Look at how extensively deals with that. So that is the central reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended from the spiritual world as his own devotee to help us understand, to learn how to cultivate this prema bhakti towards Lord Shri Krishna. So and the weapon to fight the evils of Kali Yuga. At the same time, Kali Yuga has this wonderful hidden benediction that in Kali Yuga, simply by chanting the holy name, we develop love for God. Okay, and not only we become liberated, but we actually develop a love of Krishna. So the entire chapter 20, and it's so huge. I needed to divide into 3 lessons: lesson 14, 15, and 16. That is what really the overview of that of the entire book. Okay, and this slide I given you the class schedule, the tentative dates for each of those. And now we will go through it. Already while discussing, I gave you the description of that, but just to run down, let me continue this. So this is what little bit more detail, but we will, don't worry, we will go each of these chapters at great length. Okay, but again, just as I told you right in the beginning, how wide, how to get great depth goes into this different subject matter, and the 16th lesson is quite inadequate, and that you will have this appreciation. That's the reason I'm showing the slides in this preview, just to give you an idea to how extensively it goes through that. Your obeisances that he offers, then service the transformation of ecstatic love, and this ultimate goal of the living entities. So the difference between us, Krishna, how if we are not devotees, then we become conditioned by Maya Devi with her 3 weapons. There is the modes of material nature, Sattva Guna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna, and how to transcend that. So how we can be delivered by developing this prema bhakti, and that is actually done. There's a heavy emphasis here also. The sadhu sangha, only by the association of the advanced saintly personalities, we get help. Okay, and the holy name, I just told you that many different aspects of it. Instructions for the householders, renunciations, different kinds of renunciation, and all these things. Okay, and of course the chanting of the holy name, how we ought to do it. Then this, then the handicaps, the obstacles on the path of bhakti, how to give up this duplicity, the deceitful nature that we naturally have within us, then proper renunciation, and the improper, that is the false kind, Falgu Vairagya versus Yukta Vairagya, and the caste system. Yeah. And then this is the illumination of Navadvipa, what does he say in there? He talks about the Navadvipa is non-different, identical with Sri Vrindavan. In fact, he showed the inhabitants of Navadvipa, the actual Vrindavan, he showed them the view of that, And then we learned the actual cause of why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended into the material world as his own devotee. And we got pretty much, we learned that in Sri Radha Tattva course also, right? Krishna himself became mad after learning and becoming inquisitive, extremely curious why Radharani loves him so much, despite he mistreats her many times, right? Purposefully in that. And still Radharani's love is so intact all the time, So that's why he became curious. So he came himself as a devotee in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Then how we worship Krishna through the process that is detailed, given in great detail by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he goes through that, no wonder that, and how we should not be hung up on this varnashram system as a devotee of the Lord. And there are unauthorized fake gurus are there, that we should be very, very careful about that. And of course, his author's intense eagerness to behold Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then this lesson 7, chapter 12, see that how extensively goes through that. Devotion to Krishna and holy places, results of sadhu sangha, and then the 3 classes of the devotees: neophyte devotee, intermediate devotee, and the uttama adhikari, the expert. And how this uttama adhikari, the topmost devotee, the advanced personality, that we should accept them as guru, and they sometimes, just like Yukta Vairagya, I just told you, just because something is material, we should not give up on that. In fact, if it potentially can be utilized in the service of Krishna, then we should really take it up, but without any kind of sense enjoyment. It's only to keep body and soul together and to serve Krishna, and how to properly use senses, So it's not for sense gratification. We should all engage in all our senses, even their material senses, but through which we can serve Krishna, and then the mind, of course. And his activities are only to maintain, so Uttamadhikari's activities, only to maintain body and soul together. So they sometimes, to ignorant person, it seems that why is this sannyasi being engaged in material activities? But it's not like that. So this author goes at great length to explain, to understand, make us understand properly. And the devotee of Sri Hari, Krishna, do not accept the body as the self. Of course, there is the Atma Jnana, but there is a prerequisite, right? But we have to go beyond that we are not this body, we are a spirit soul, but we are meant to serve Sri Krishna. And how they are equal. Okay, going to the next chapter, chapter 11, 13, is lesson 7. Detailed knowledge about Sri Navadvipa and how it is not different from Sri Vrindavan Dham. All right. So lesson 8, again, that incident that I described to you, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes visit in a village, he visit of cowards, and then they told him that this particular lake, our cows don't drink milk, don't drink water, because there is a ferocious crocodile, and the crocodile happened to be a child demigod who was cursed because he offended inadvertently Durvasa Muni, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu liberates him. Then lesson 9, the love of God, right? I hurriedly went through that, but here it will give you a pretty good idea and about different questions of Raghunath Das Goswami, the science of love of God, love of Krishna. Only the Vraja Gopis understand the ecstatic love, right? The same way, so the Navadvip Vasis also like the inhabitants. Then the love of Ramananda Rai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a close relationship with him. How he had him ask, Mahaprabhu asked him the questions, and Ramananda Rai answers by the inspiration of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, actually. So that the author goes through that at great length. Who is qualified in the art of love? It is impossible to cultivate love of God as long as one has the mentality of being a male or female. So we are all actually being meant to be enjoyed by Krishna in so many different varieties, So that is we have to learn. So this gender-based kind of distinction as a devotee we should forget, So we should work just like as Braja Gopis, in their footsteps. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction to Raghunath Goswami. Then different kinds of renunciation we already talked about. Okay, since we have got so much time I devoted, we'll skip this also. So now coming to chapter 7. So I've already completed PowerPoints up to chapter 60. Ram. Prabhuji, can you continue to finish the rest of it? Thank you.
Sharat Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir. We'll come back. Actually, he's got this problem. Earlier, he had told me to conduct the class. Then, in the morning, last moment, he wanted to conduct it himself. We'll just wait a while for him to come. If he's not able to come, then I'll cover the.
Prabhuji is getting a lot of cough. Yes, Prabhu. Here, Prabhu.
Okay,
let's chant for a few times Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Okay. 1 or 2 times.
Yes, we are almost done. We are done now. I think I will take questions. Hare Krishna. Let's just take the questions. I think we have finished it. Hare Krishna. My deepest analogy, my deepest apology, please. That's what I was worried about that, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you need rest.
Yeah. So that final chapter, chapter 20, we'll do in 3 lessons. And that is what I was telling you about. But we'll go through all these chapters now, okay? But as a preview, I think I already given you, I hope, pretty good idea what this course is about. And most importantly, how the 16 lessons are not really adequate to do proper justice. So the slides are going to be heavily packed with this very complex slides. But when I present it to you, I'll try to make it as simple as possible in an easily understandable way so that you can follow that, okay? But it will help greatly if each of you glance through. It will take only about few minutes, actually, maybe no more than 15-20 minutes to glance through the slides. So when I present to you, it doesn't come as total surprise to you, okay? Thank you. Okay, any questions about that? Comments?
No, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So
No questions, Prabhu.
I will turn over to Sharath Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you want to add something about this course? And remember, don't forget, tomorrow, this rest of Saturday and Sunday, I will try to do the final 2 chapters of Sri Narada Bhakti Sutra. So we will be concluding that course right tomorrow and day after tomorrow. And then we will begin Sri Madhurya Kadambini. Again, that also is all about bhakti process, you know, and that is also incredibly, very, very instructive. It was authored by Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and so that we'll go through that. And then after completion of Madhurya Kadambini, then, and while this is going through, of course, we'll continue Prema Vivarta also, you know, and then we'll get into Jaiva Dharma at that time. We will, so that's a huge course, 48 lessons. And Sharath Prabhu has already been telling you all the time how great this Madhurya, this Jaiva Dharma is all about. All your doubts, everything will be, I guarantee, we both guarantee you, will be all resolved. And we will properly understand now, having gone through this, this Prema Vivarta course by the mercy of Sri Jagadananda Prabhu, the very, very intimate devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his mercy, will be able to follow Sri Jaiva Dharma in its essential way. Okay, Haribol. So, Sharath Prabhuji, now it's up to you now.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. I'll just explain or give a little more information, more than what Charu Prabhuji has said, though in very great detail they will be covered when the lessons are conducted. In the very, very beginning only, in chapter 1, we'll see that although Radha and Krishna by nature they are one, through the transformation of Hladini Shakti, their love, they exist eternally in separate forms as Radha and Krishna. And 500 years back, they returned in one combined form as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it is explained that the absolute truth is eternally one without a second, but still they exist as Radha and Krishna, and sometimes as Sri Chaitanya as the supreme being. This is very, very important for us to understand. And in lesson 2, we'll see how Jagadananda Pandit, he is himself saying that I am a Pandit by name only. There is nothing which I know. Still, I want to write about Sri Chaitanya's pastimes, as told earlier. He is the permanent associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and when they were very, very young, they were studying in the same class. Then the discussion between Swarup Damodar Goswami and Jagadananda Pandita, that thing will be told. And there in one place he says that if you do not serve Gora Chandra, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then you are very, very crazy. And if you serve him, you will feel the greatest joy because he is a deity of mercy. And say that he is also saying about Gadadhar Pandita that Gadai and Gauranga are Radha and Shyama, and that the 32 miles of Navadvipa are Vrindavana. That's what we have been told. What about Gadadhar Pandita? In the last class, there was one question from one devotee. What is his identity? And now, if we read the Gaura Ganodas Dipika, we'll find that he is a combination of Radha, Krishna, and Lalita Sakhi. This please remember. Then one word about this Gaura Ganodas Dipika, which is written by Kavi Karnapura. Kavi Karnapura, he received the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly when he was hardly about 7 years old. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had blessed him, and the Kavi Karnapura had received the Harinam mantra directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was 7 years old, and he was ordered and empowered by the Lord. Actually, he does not give his identity in the Gaura Ganodas Dipika, but be rest assured that he was a gopi in the Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavana. Now, next, we learn in lesson 7 when we go the illumination of Navadvipa, as has been told. And there is no difference between Navadvipa and Vrindavana. And if some devotee takes them to be different, then it becomes an aparadha. That has to be understood very, very clearly. That's why we have to think like that. And regarding the glories of the Vaishnavas, it is said that the 3 types of devotees were classified as Prabhuji was explaining, which is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that is also given. And then in chapters 14 and 15, it is given that those who have love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they undergo a lot of distress. And that distress pulls their hearts in opposite directions simultaneously. And that is what is known as Vivarta. Then Jagadananda Pandita, he talks about how he had seen a dream and all that I am not covering. Then about the love of God, one thing I want to say. Once Raghunath Das Goswami, he asked, what is love? He asked Swarup Damodar Goswami. He said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always listening. He is singing the songs of Vidyapati and Chandidasa, but I am not understanding them. Then he answered that. He said that know that Sri Krishna Karnamrita and the songs of Chandidas and Vidyapati and those written by Ramananda Rai, they are most invaluable scriptures. And they talk of love, the nature of divine love. And as you know, they are much different from the mundane love which is spoken in this world. And he said that those who are blinded by insincere love are far from having pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then this book discusses about the code of conduct for different devotees, how they should behave with each other, how they should not mix day and night with the householders, the students, the retired householders, or renunciants who are devoid of devotion to Krishna, or they do not have any Krishna consciousness. One should be away from them. And then it is also said that there are two types of Vaishnavas, the householders and the renunciates, and both are qualified for devotion, but their practices are different. Then regarding Ekadasi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had said that suppose in an Ekadasi day, somebody gives you the prasad, Mahaprasad of the Supreme Lord, then you should bow down and you should show respect to the Mahaprasad and eat them only on the next day. But there are many practices in many places, like here in this part of Purushottam Khetra in Odisha, the people, they say that one can take the Mahaprasad even on Ekadasi day, and they follow that. But we should follow what has been told by Mahaprabhu for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because that is what is our Bible. And then the next about the mysteries of the holy name, it is said that the virtues, the rites, the renunciation, fire sacrifices, they are all mundane. They do not help anyone to attain the spiritual wealth. But when one takes the name of the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna, because as told earlier also, there is no difference between the Supreme Lord and his name, and then all our offenses, all our sins, they will get burned, because chanting the holy name is the eternal duty of the soul, and it is the primary activity of the soul both in this world and also in the spiritual world. And the non-devotional duties mentioned in the various religious scriptures, the rites that they have, which do not have any devotional purpose, renunciation, that is not an expression of detachment produced by devotion. The scriptures say that all these pious activities are favorable to devotion because they have some connection with the Lord. But in the age of Kali, please remember that all these, what I have discussed, they are the material activities, and they have no connection with devotion in this age of Kali. And we should know that this name always destroys all sins, cures all diseases, relieves all miseries, and all our obstacles will get cleared, and we will be delivered even from hell. This will cut away the active karma and remove all offenses. And the scriptures say that the chanting of the name is superior to visiting many holy places and superior to performing any pious work, because we have learned about the example of Ajamila. He desperately uttered the name of Lord Narayana, and he immediately became free from all the sins he had committed in the course of his 10 million births. This is what is to be understood. And we should know that the sinners who once chant the name of Krishna, they are freed from all sins. And the punishment of Yamaraja never afflicts those who desperately call loudly Krishna or Hari. And there are no sins committed in the thought, word, or deed in the age of Kali that chanting of the name of the Lord Govinda cannot remove, cannot destroy. And as the wind drives away the clouds, and the rising sun invariably dispels darkness, so the chanting of the holy name drives away the soul's difficulties. And by his power, by his own power of the Supreme Lord, everything becomes auspicious. And this is what has been spoken by Vyasadeva in numerous Puranas. and in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and many other places, it is clearly written, clearly given that this holy name is our last refuge in the age of Kali. There is no other thing as the holy name. With this, I finish my comments. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.